Hello, my little creeps. Welcome back to Spooky Scary Storytime. Today is a compilation style video of some of the creepiest, craziest roommate stories that y'all have sent me. If you know anything about Spooky Scary Storytime, this series was born because I had a creepy roommate who told me he sold his soul to the devil. That's a whole story in itself. I will probably make another video of talking about that and that whole experience at some point, but I'm just going to include in this video a few of the craziest stories, starting off with one called The Jar Lady, which is still one of my favorite stories I think that I've gotten for Spooky Scary Storytime. It was one of the very first that I told. And also in this compilation, I'm going to include a story from someone who says that they were the creepy roommate, just to offer an alternative perspective. Not too much talking in between. We're just going to rapid fire through these videos. If you have a story, please send it to me. My website is dogoodstaybad.com, and there is a story submissions page on that site. It doesn't have to be about roommates, just anything that you think that nobody else would believe. I will believe you. I want to hear it. All right, you guys, I will see you soon. Enjoy this compilation. This story is absolutely spine-chilling. This girl, Jenna, DMs me and she goes, I have to share my crazy roommate story. 3 years ago, she breaks up with her boyfriend. They're living together at the time, so she needed to find a new apartment or place to live. She goes to work. She's asking around if anyone knows anyone that needs a roommate, and one of her coworkers says, yeah, I know this girl named Emily at my church. She's got a room opening up in her house. Jenna's like, that's amazing. Can you set up a time for me and Emily to meet? And the coworker's like, absolutely. They all go out, they get drinks, they have a good time. Everything's normal. I feel like the common thread in all these stories is that it's always normal at first. She goes to check out the place. It's clean, it's cute, it's like boho decor, which is Jenna's style already. So she's like right at home immediately. She's like, this is going to work. Like, let's do it. I'm going to move in. She moves in, she starts to unpack all her things, and she notices that Emily is a little eclectic. When I say eclectic, I mean that she has little jars all over the place that are like labeled in cute handwriting, but they're just like weird collections. So she has one that says like buttons and one that says paper clips. There's even one in the kitchen that says breadcrumbs, but they're all over the house. They are part of the decor almost. So Jenna doesn't think it's that weird. She's like, okay, it's cute, like whatever. She asks Emily about it. Emily's like, yeah, I just like keeping memories. And Jenna's like, love that, perfect. And she starts like jokingly calling Emily the Jar Lady. Jenna and Emily actually become pretty good friends. They're living together for like a year at this point, and Emily is still collecting things in jars. She's got one out in the yard that says like stick, and she's always finding new things to collect. Then one day, about a year after they're living together, Jenna starts to get a little unsettled because she goes in the bathroom, she's like doing her makeup, and she notices on the counter there's a jar and it says at Jenna's trash, and it has one of her little makeup sponges that she threw away in the jar. So she waits for Emily to get home from work, and she's like, hey, what's with this jar? Like, I threw this makeup sponge away. Like, it's weird that it's in a jar now. And Emily's just like, oh, well, we spend so much time like doing our makeup together in the bathroom. Like, it just reminded me of it, and I just like thought it was cute and part of the decor. And Jenna's like, okay, like not that weird, like whatever. And so she just leaves it. Then Jenna's out one night with some other people, and she meets this guy named Jason, and they like hit it off. They start seeing each other. Emily and Jason also get along. Jason's over at the house quite a bit. And one night, it's winter time. They're all in the living room, like watching a movie, and Emily gets up to go get a drink from the kitchen. Jenna decides she's also thirsty, so she gets up, goes to the kitchen, and she sees Emily in the kitchen holding Jason's jacket, and she's like pulling at the threads. And so Jenna's like, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I actually love this material. I was just trying to figure out what it is because I want to buy a jacket. Jenna's like, cool, doesn't think anything of it. A couple days later, she realizes she left her phone charger somewhere, so she goes in Emily's room while she's at work to borrow her phone charger. And then she sees on Emily's dresser there's a jar, and it's labeled Jason, and it has the threads from the jacket in the jar, and there's also like a couple human hairs. So this is also like deeply unsettling to Jenna because she's like, why is she collecting Jason's stuff? She starts thinking maybe Emily has like a hoarding problem, but she doesn't want to like call her out because they get along so well. They're such good friends at this point. So she just ignores it. But she does say that at that point, she didn't really feel comfortable with like Jason coming over to the house much anymore. So she starts spending more time at Jason's place instead of him coming over to their house. So she's not home as much, and Emily doesn't really like this. She starts texting Jenna when she's over at Jason. She's like, hey, you need to come home. Like, we haven't spent any time together. I really miss you. I feel like our friendship is like fading. And Jenna feels guilty about this at first. She's like, yeah, I really have been spending a lot of time with Jason. So she makes more of an effort to spend time with Emily. But it doesn't matter because Emily is like increasingly upset anytime Jenna goes over to Jason's house. So one night Jenna decides she needs to address this, and they're sitting on the couch, just the two of them together, and she's like, hey, like what's going on with like, you not liking me being with Jason? Like, we're in a happy relationship now. And Emily basically freaks out, starts crying, and is like, I just feel like you used me. We had such a good friendship going, and now you just have a boyfriend, and you're just one of those girls that like ditches her friends as soon as she gets a boyfriend, and like, I just can't believe you're this person. And Jenna tries to reason with her. She's like, no, I love you. You're my friend. I'm just like, I'm just really happy right now, and I want to spend time with both of you. Emily's not having it. She ends up like freaking out, crying, running into her room and slamming the door. Jenna's like upset. She doesn't really want to be at the house that night, so she texts Jason. She's like, hey, can I come over? And Jason's like, yeah, absolutely. Just like pack a bag. You can stay. So she's in her closet packing a bag, and she drops something behind this little shelving unit she had in her closet. And so she goes to move it, and she notices like on the floor behind the shelving unit is a jar, and it's labeled Jenna. And she picks it up and she looks at it, and in the jar is a pair of her dirty undergarments, and a little folded up piece of paper. So she unscrews the jar, she pulls out the paper, and it's her mother's obituary, which Emily knew that her mom had passed away, but that was like way before she lived with Emily. She has no idea how she found the obituary. Like, she must have searched her name, but it's in the jar with her dirty undergarments. So she's like, this is freaky. I need to get out of here. So she takes the jar, she takes her bag, she goes over to Jason. She's telling Jason the whole story. He's like, I don't think this is a normal, like, living situation anymore. Like, why don't you just move in with me for the time being until you find another place? So she goes home the next day and she basically breaks the news to Emily that she's going to be moving in with Jason. And Emily does not obviously take this news well. She freaks out again and she just reiterates the fact that she thinks that Jenna used her. It doesn't matter. The friendship is not salvaged. She ends up moving in with Jason. She thinks her problems are over. Her and Emily don't talk after she moves out. She's living with Jason for a few weeks when one night he's like going out with his boys. So she's home alone. Now, mind you, Emily has never been to Jason's house. She doesn't know where he lives. So Jenna's in bed watching Netflix and she hears the sliding back door open, which is weird because Jason normally always comes in through the front door. So she like gets up and she's like, hey, you're home early. And she sees Emily standing in the living room with a set of keys. Of course the keys are in a jar. Like, why would they not be? And she's like, hey, I just wanted to return these to you. And Jenna freaks out naturally. She's like, how did you get in here? Like, how do you even know? And she's like, hey, I'm just returning your stuff. Like, I'm just trying to do you a favor. I'm sorry for not like letting you know that I was coming over first. They end up basically talking and Emily apologizes for being crazy, essentially. Jenna's like, it's fine. Like, we can talk about this another time. Like, I'm going to go to bed though. So Emily's like, okay, yeah, like, just like text me. And she leaves. She tells Jason about this and he does not like it. He's like, why is she coming into the house? Like, that is psychotic. They realized like they had not locked the back door because Jason had a dog that night and like whatever. So she just like, I guess maybe tried the front door and then saw the back was open and came. Like, I don't know. I would have been not okay with someone coming in my house. I'm sorry, Jenna. I know you're going to be reading these comments. I'm not judging. You didn't know any better. But then I guess they're cool until one day Jenna and Jason are out and they come home and on the coffee table is a jar and it's a photo of Jenna sitting on her bed taken from outside of her window. She takes a picture of it. She sends it to Emily. She's like, what is this? And Emily just says, I didn't do that. So they put up Ring cameras all over the house. And it's only a few nights before they see Emily standing outside of the house at night with a camera. So Jenna goes and immediately gets a restraining order. She deletes Emily from all social media. She blocks her. And then she starts finding more jars around their property line. One of the jars is labeled Jenna's dirty tissues. One of them has, I cannot say what because it's so disturbing. I can't put it on TikTok. But just imagine something that would be left after Jenna and Jason spent the night together and potentially didn't want to have a baby. Yeah, that's in a jar. She's still actively dealing with this. She still has a restraining order and she is going to be reading these comments. So be nice. And we're calling this playlist Spooky Scary Storytime from now on. So if you see this, you know what this video is going to be. I just read one of the wildest crazy roommate story times that I've ever gotten for this series. And this story came from a girl named Jamie. Jamie said that her old roommate told her that she was part of an inner earth civilization and that she was immortal. And when I read this, I was like, what is going on? And then when I got to the ending, I was like, what is going on? So this girl, Jamie, messages and she says, yeah, I live with this girl. We had a mutual friend. Like, she was kind of part of my social circle, but I didn't know her that well. She had a room opening up. I needed a room. So she moves in with this girl whose name is Jen. Jen's name has been changed to protect her privacy. And this takes place in Nashville, which is actually where I live, but I don't know these people. So they had certain things in common. Like, Jamie said she's really into astrology. Jen was really into astrology, and actually one of the first things they ever did when they met was like compare the times that they were born and their birth charts and their compatibility as friends. But for Jamie, who sent the story, this was like more of a hobby. For Jen, this was her entire life. She was the type of person to not sleep with her phone in her bedroom because she thought that the electromagnetic waves were interfering with her aura, things like that. Jen was very into meditation and practicing mindfulness. She did not have social media. She was single, but she didn't do online dating because she thought that she needed to meet people organically because whoever was put on her path was put there for a reason. And actually, at first, Jamie liked living with Jen because Jen was teaching her all kinds of things about mindfulness and manifestation. She was teaching her how to speak things into existence. She wasn't teaching her how to do it with like vision boards or the power of positive thought. She was teaching her to do it with a whispering method she called echo looping. Pause to say that I'm very into manifestation and I've never heard of echo looping. But anyway, Jen tells Jamie that if she whispers her intentions between 3:10 and 3:30 in the morning and then drinks sun water, manifestation becomes easier because you can bypass something called the electromagnetic gatekeepers. Like, I've never heard of this. Jamie said sun water was basically just water you left out in the sun, but to her surprise, it actually worked in some ways. Like, she got a raise. She had chronic jaw pain that went away, and this was an issue that she was plagued with for as long as she could remember. And she felt more energized and emotionally regulated than she had felt in years. And she tells Jen this, and Jen says, oh yeah, that's just because you're just remembering who you really are. They're living together for a couple months when Jen leaves for what she calls a harmonic yoga retreat. And this wasn't that uncommon. She did retreats like this fairly often. But on this particular trip, she comes home after 3 days without her bag. She's barefoot. She's got leaves and sticks in her hair. When she walks in, Jamie's in the kitchen and she's like, how was it? And she's like, I don't want to talk right now. She's like, I'm really tired. I've crossed through and I can't speak about it until the moon wanes. So Jamie's like, okay, I guess we'll talk about it tomorrow. And Jen goes to bed. And then she doesn't leave her room for 3 days. Like, she would come out to use the bathroom and stuff, but then she would just go back in her room and go right back to sleep. So Jamie's like, I guess whatever she did really wore her out. On the third night, night after Jen came back, Jamie woke up at 3:22 in the morning. She was going out to the kitchen to do her echo looping practice. For manifestation, when she walks out in the kitchen, she sees Jen out there pacing back and forth. It almost looks like she's sleepwalking and she's whispering to herself, but it was like whispering really, really fast, like she was reciting something from memory. So Jamie's like, Jen, are you awake? Like, what's going on? And Jen just looks at her and says, oh, you weren't supposed to see that yet. She's like, good, that's very good, because it means you're remembering. She's like, it means you're almost ready. And Jamie's like, what are you talking about? And I guess that's when Jen decides it's appropriate to just tell her that she is from Middle Earth. Like, she says she's from Agartha, which I guess according to her is a city that lies beneath the surface of the earth. And she says she was sent to the earth's surface to help wake people up in cycles. She tells Jamie she's one of these people, and Jamie's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she's like, yeah, your lineage belongs to the 13th spiral. I don't know if this is a thing. I don't know if it's just a thing in Jen's world, but that's what she tells her. And she starts going on and on about how the veil is getting thinner and that Jamie needs to wake up, and Jamie's like, I still am not following. She said she wasn't like creeped out. Like, she actually remembers thinking as it was happening that Jen was just messing with her. She said she actually remembers kind of laughing out of nervousness or like to get Jen to break character, but she didn't. Instead, she just said that the ones who guard the openings are getting tired and that there are breaches and that she should pay attention to humming noises before power outages. She says when you notice patches of cold air, that's not weather, that's leakage. And Jamie said she was just at a loss. Like, she had no idea what was going on with this girl. She just let her talk and talk. But it all culminated when Jen said, yeah, I don't die like you do. And she ends the conversation with saying something like, yeah, well, the moon's waned, so we can talk about it more tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow. Good night. And she just goes back in her room. So Jamie's like, weird. And the next day she brings it up to her and she's like, what was last night about? Like, were you on something? Like, were you drinking? And Jen's like, no, that was all true. And just goes about her day like normal. Jamie said like she just let it go kind of after that. Like, she would bring it up from time to time, and Jen was always happy to elaborate on what she was talking about, but she fully believed that she was from Middle Earth and that she was immortal. Like, even when they were out or something, Jamie would bring it up and Jen would just agree and be like, yeah, that's true. And this belief didn't seem to be affecting her in a negative way, so I guess Jamie just kind of let it go, like she was otherwise a good roommate. Until about a month later, all the pipes burst on the floor above them and the apartment complex flooded. I actually think I know which building this was. Like, I remember an apartment complex getting flooded around here and them having to vacate a bunch of the units. But I don't know, she didn't say the name of it. But anyway, they have to move out. Like, their apartment is just done for. But while their apartment was flooding, Jen was just standing calmly in the living room while Jamie was like frantically putting everything into trash bags trying to get out of there. And Jen just said, this was all going to happen anyway. This is just alignment. So Jamie calls another friend of hers. She's going to go stay with her, and she's like, where are you gonna go? And Jen says, oh, I know some people out in McMinnville, which is a town like outside of Nashville. And she's like, yeah, but you don't know these people and you couldn't go there unless they invited you. So they leave the place kind of in chaos, and 3 days go by, and then she texts Jen. She's like, hey, are you doing okay? Like, how's your friend's place? And Jen just doesn't respond, and she chalked it up to her like going off grid or just not having signal wherever she was. She would text her again and again, and she never got a response. Her number is still active, but she's never responded to Jamie. So Jamie tries not to overthink it. She's like, I guess she just didn't want to be friends anymore, like whatever, life goes on. Until a couple months later, she's like looking on the social app with the red logo. It's a forum, you know what I'm talking about. She comes across a post in a niche community about geological hums. She said it wasn't like I was like actively searching out that information. It was just suggested to me, so I looked at it. But apparently people all over the world hear these geological hums right before power outages or weird weather, and she's intrigued because she remembered what Jen had said about geological hums. So she starts reading, and one of the top comments mentioned one of these strange hums just outside of McMinnville, Tennessee, on the exact same night that the apartment flooded. She said it was goosebumps when she read a comment responding to that, which said, the McMinnville tone was unusually loud. There's a person I know who reported missing time. The bird stopped singing for a full 48 hours. There are definitely people walking among us who are not us. She said, Ashley, my stomach dropped when I read McMinnville and the tone, and I read the date, because how could she have known, and why would she have behaved that way? Like, maybe it's just coincidence, but now I can't stop wondering. I don't really know what to think. I don't really know what to make of this, but I think it's interesting, and I love crazy roommate stories because that's actually how Spooky Scary Storytime even started. So if you've got a story you think no one would believe, please send it to me. I would love to read it. The people here would love to hear it, and you found your people. I try to post a new story almost every single day, and I've got one coming up about someone who believes they've met the Galactic Convention, so nothing's too weird. This girl Jess DM'd me and she said, I just watched your creepy roommate video and I just wanted to offer another perspective because I have been the creepy roommate. And I'm like, oh my God, please tell me. And she's like, yeah, this girl's probably still telling everyone I worship the devil. Jess is in college. She gets paired with an awesome roommate freshman year. They decide to live together again sophomore year. But during the summer between freshman and sophomore years, Jess decides she's going to take some summer classes. So she has to stay on campus while her roommate moves home. That means she's going to be paired with a random roommate that she's never met before. The summer roommate's name is Ashley. No affiliation to me. Just chose his name. But because she's getting a new roommate and she has to change rooms, she goes home for a few days between the end of freshman year and the start of the summer classes. The roommate, Ashley, moves in the night before she gets back to school. Jess and her mom arrive. Ashley's not there, but they realize that she has taken over the entire dorm. All of Ashley's stuff is in Jess's drawers, it's in her closet, and she's used Jess's bed as a disgusting table. There's used sanitary napkins all over the place. Jess and her mom are like, what is this? And they run to the RA's office, tell her what happened, and the RA, the mom, and Jess all come back to the room, use thick rubber gloves to clean up all the nasty stuff that Ashley left. The RA gets Jess a new bed, so it's just like a whole thing from the start, and Jess's mom finally leaves. Later that day, Ashley comes back to the room, and Jess and Ashley meet for the first time. And Ashley is not at all what Jess expected. She is this sweet, charismatic Southern belle. She's soft-spoken, she's an engineering major, and she seems like someone who would have her life together. So Jess was shocked that night when she's in bed watching a Disney movie, and at 9 p.m. Ashley promptly turns it off, turns out the light, switches on her bedside lamp, and starts reading aloud from a daily devotional book. Jess says nothing. She's just laying in bed in shock, listening to Ashley read about the sinful nature of Disney movies, voting Democrat, and taking Tylenol. Jess said she did have some Tylenol on her bedside table that Ashley could clearly see. Later that night, after Ashley goes to bed, Jess reaches over and takes some Tylenol. She's been having some problems with her foot. Ashley hears the bottle rattle, pops up in bed, switches on her bedside lamp, and starts praying out loud for God to save Jess's soul. Weeks go by, and Ashley's judgment intensifies. She has complaints about Jess's male friends, about the way she dresses, about the way she does her makeup. And Jess is trying to just get through the summer, but ultimately her patience is being worn thin because Ashley's not just complaining about her life. It's also she's dirty. She makes a mess of the room. She keeps leaving stuff on Jess's bed, and she's made a mess of the shared microwave. So Jess decides she's going to take revenge. She has a little framed photo of a star on her desk, and one day when Ashley's out, she just flips it upside down. Jess leaves to go teach a swing dance class, and when she comes back later, Ashley's back in the dorm, crying on her bed, freaking out, and she looks at Jess and says, "Why are you trying to summon Satan in the room?" And Jess just looks at her and says, "Who is that? Is he hot?" The next week, things escalated even more when Jess's friend, who was a gay man, had to stop by the room to grab something. Ashley freaked out and ran to the RA's office to complain that Jess was making an ethics violation for having a man in the room. Jess was called to the RA's office to hear her side of the story, and she found out in that interview basically that Ashley had driven away all of her previous roommates. The RA essentially said, "I'm surprised you lasted this long." So Jess decides at this point, since she's already the villain in Ashley's mind, she's going to have fun with it, and she starts leaving little evil surprises all over the room. The next time Ashley left a mess in the microwave, Jess drew a pentagram with ketchup in the microwave and left a little candle in the middle. When Ashley declared that Barbie dolls were tools of Satan, Jess bought a bunch of them, stripped them naked, cut their hair into weird angles, and left them scattered around the room. One day, after listening to Ashley read from her devotional about modesty, Jess decided she was going to do her makeup fully and leave the house in a tiny sundress. If she was out and saw anything even remotely demonic looking, she would buy it and then hide it somewhere in the room. Eventually, the summer ended, and they obviously did not talk after that. But what do you think about this? Do you think that Jess was right, that Ashley was right? Jess did not want to be tagged, but she will be reading these comments. Keep sending me these stories, and I will keep posting them in this playlist.